9 justices, 0 dissent, one ruling that nobody saw coming. While the nation was distracted by political theater and endless debates, the Supreme Court just dropped a legal bombshell that rewrites the rules for every single American who owns, carries, or even thinks about firearms. This isn't about gun control or the Second Amendment. It's something far more fundamental that could save your life. The highest court in the land just unanimously declared that law enforcement has been getting it wrong for decades. They've been using a legal loophole to justify split-second decisions that cost lives, and the Supreme Court just slammed that door shut. If you've ever worried about what happens when you legally carry and encounter police, this changes everything. Barnes versus Felix started as a routine traffic stop. Within 5 seconds, a man was dead. The officer claimed self-defense. The lower courts agreed. Case closed, right? Wrong. What happened next sent shockwaves through every courthouse in America. Officer Robert Felix Jr. pulled over Ashton Barnes for suspected toll violations. Standard procedure, nothing unusual. Barnes was asked to exit his vehicle. He opened the door, seemed to comply, then suddenly attempted to drive away. Felix made a split-second decision. He jumped onto the vehicle's door ledge. 2 seconds later, he fired 2 shots. Barnes died from his wounds. The entire confrontation lasted roughly 5 seconds. From the moment the car moved to the fatal shots, 5 seconds that would reshape American law. Barnes's mother sued, claiming her son's constitutional rights were violated. The district court sided with the officer. The appeals court agreed. They all used the same reasoning. In that 2-second window when Felix clung to the moving car, he feared for his life. Justified shooting. End of story. But here's where it gets interesting. For years, courts have been using something called the moment of threat rule. They only looked at the exact instant when force was used. Nothing before mattered. Nothing after mattered. Just that single moment frozen in time. Think about how dangerous that is. An officer could escalate a situation, make terrible decisions, create unnecessary danger, and none of that would matter legally. As long as they felt threatened in that final second, they walked free. The Supreme Court saw through this immediately. In a stunning 9-0 decision, they didn't just disagree with the lower courts. They obliterated their entire legal framework. Justice Elena Kagan, writing for the unanimous court, delivered a masterclass in constitutional law. The Fourth Amendment, she explained, doesn't work in snapshots. It demands context, it requires understanding, it needs the whole story. The court's message was crystal clear. You cannot slice a police encounter into convenient fragments. Every decision, every action, every word spoken before force is used, it all matters. The totality of circumstances isn't just a suggestion anymore. It's the law. This might sound like legal technicalities, but for gun owners, this is revolutionary. Here's why. More Americans than ever are legally carrying firearms. Constitutional carry states are expanding. Concealed carry permits are at record highs. But with those rights comes a terrifying reality. Any encounter with law enforcement could turn deadly based on a misunderstanding.
Gun rights are at the forefront of discussion today.
This case arose where Officer Roberto Felix shot Ashton Barnes after jumping onto his moving car.
Does the court look at just the moment of the threat, those 2 or 3 seconds when the perceived threat happens?
First and foremost, basic gun safety does not have to be a threat to the Second Amendment.
It's not the gun owner, it's not the pistol permit holders, it's the criminals that are causing the violence and the gun problem.
Until now, if an officer saw your legal firearm and reacted with force, courts would only examine that split second of fear. Did you reach for your wallet too quickly? Did you shift in your seat? Did you make any movement that could be interpreted as threatening? That's all that mattered. The officer's mistakes leading up to that moment, irrelevant. Whether you announced you were carrying legally didn't matter. Whether the situation could have been handled differently, courts wouldn't even consider it. This ruling changes that entire equation. Now courts must examine everything. Did the officer follow proper procedures? Did they escalate unnecessarily? Did they create the very danger they later claimed to fear? These questions are no longer off limits, they're required. The implications ripple far beyond traffic stops. Home visits under red flag laws, encounters at shooting ranges, interactions during hunting season. Every situation where legal gun owners meet law enforcement now falls under this new standard.
If you're going to restrict a constitutional right, it has to be consistent with the nation's historical traditions of firearm regulation.
The Supreme Court has answered that question in a recent decision. Barnes versus Felix.
Taken a few decades and a lot of work and a lot of talking, but it has finally bubbled up and people have finally taken notice at the highest levels of American law.
The Supreme Court rejected the moment of threat approach, mandating a totality of circumstances analysis under the Fourth Amendment.
I know that sentence sounds fake, but apparently miracles do still happen in federal court.
And I think it's pretty simple, is that we want to do our due diligence if we're looking to give people gun rights.
Consider what this means practically. You're pulled over while legally carrying. You inform the officer, as required by law in many states. The officer overreacts, draws their weapon, and things spiral out of control. Under the old standard, only that final moment would matter in court. Under this new ruling, the entire interaction becomes relevant. Did the officer follow department protocols for armed citizens? Did they have reasonable suspicion beyond your legal firearm? Did their actions escalate a calm situation into a dangerous one? These factors now carry legal weight. The Supreme Court didn't just change the rules. They fundamentally altered how we think about police accountability. By demanding courts examine the totality of circumstances, they've created a framework that protects both officers acting reasonably and citizens exercising their rights. This isn't anti-police or pro-criminal, it's pro-constitution. It recognizes that split-second decisions don't happen in a vacuum. They're the product of choices, training, and circumstances that build toward that critical moment.
You need to be on the right side of the law because the legal system is complex.
Barnes now ties it all together, demanding officers document their entire approach before force is used.
Don't fucking move! Don't fucking move! Shot fire!
Even if you are innocent, your words can still be twisted and taken out of context.
That seems like guilty until proven innocent. That's not within the lawful jurisdiction of a government.
Deadly force is only authorized if the officer has probable cause to believe that the suspect represents an immediate threat.
For law enforcement, this means training must evolve. Officers can no longer rely on creating situations where they feel threatened, then claiming that fear as justification. They must consider how their actions throughout an encounter will be judged, not just their final decision. For gun owners, this provides crucial protection. Your legal right to carry cannot be transformed into probable cause for excessive force simply because an officer claims momentary fear. The full context of your lawful behavior now matters in court. The ruling also bridges a critical gap between the Second and Fourth Amendments. Your right to bear arms means nothing if exercising it makes you a target for unjustified force. This decision ensures that constitutional rights work together, not in isolation. Legal experts are already calling this the most significant excessive force ruling in decades. Some compare it to Miranda rights in terms of its potential impact on law enforcement practices.
All right, we've got this breaking news just coming into our newsroom right now.
It's your responsibility to stay on the right side of the law.
How do courts determine whether or not the use of force is objectively reasonable?
Our citizens want gun safety, want firearm safety, want community safety.
Officers face greater scrutiny. Courts can weigh how their actions contribute to the need for force. Citizens gain stronger Fourth Amendment protection.
The unanimous nature of the decision sends an unmistakable message. This isn't partisan politics. This is fundamental law. Lower courts across the country must now revisit their standards. Cases previously dismissed under the narrow moment of threat doctrine may be revived. Future cases will be argued under this broader, more contextual framework. Police departments are scrambling to update training materials. Use of force policies need revision. Officers must now be trained not just in split-second decision-making, but in how their entire approach to an encounter affects its outcome. For attorneys representing both officers and citizens, the legal landscape has shifted dramatically. Arguments must now encompass the full scope of an interaction. Evidence that was previously inadmissible becomes central to the case. The ripple effects extend to legislative bodies as well. States may need to revise their use of force statutes to align with this new constitutional standard. Local governments face potential liability for policies that encourage escalation over de-escalation. But beyond the legal implications, this ruling represents something deeper. A recognition that constitutional rights require nuanced protection.
This shift could influence all circuit courts.
The Supreme Court just came down with its biggest Second Amendment ruling in more than a decade.
It is unconstitutional.
This is something that actually comes from common law England. The king is sovereign, and the government has to waive that sovereign immunity.
Departments may need to update their training. focusing on de-escalation before escalation.
A unanimous Supreme Court ruling gives you the power to stop them.
In an era of increasing polarization, 9 justices from across the ideological spectrum agreed that context matters, that rights have meaning, and that accountability extends beyond convenient moments. For every American who values their constitutional rights, whether it's the right to bear arms or the right to be free from unreasonable seizure, this decision offers hope. It shows that even in divided times, fundamental principles of justice can unite us. The court has spoken with one voice. Your rights don't evaporate in tense moments. They don't disappear when you're nervous. They don't vanish because someone else feels afraid. They persist throughout every interaction, protected by the full context of your actions and intentions. This ruling won't eliminate all controversial police shootings. It won't solve every dispute between citizens and law enforcement, but it does something perhaps more important. It demands that we look at the whole picture, consider all the facts, and judge actions in their full context rather than convenient fragments. As this new standard takes hold across the country, we'll see its effects in courtrooms, training academies, and street-level encounters. Officers will need to think more carefully about escalation. Citizens will have stronger grounds to challenge unjustified force, and courts will be required to dig deeper into the circumstances surrounding critical incidents. The Barnes versus Felix decision marks a turning point in American jurisprudence. It's a reminder that our highest court can still surprise us, unite across ideological lines, and strengthen the constitutional protections we all depend on. Whether you carry a firearm daily, keep one at home for protection, or simply believe in constitutional accountability, this ruling affects you. It says that your rights matter not just in theory, but in practice. It demands that those entrusted with enforcing the law also follow it, completely and contextually. In a time when constitutional debates often generate more heat than light, the Supreme Court has provided something rare: unanimous clarity. The message is unmistakable. Context matters, rights matter, and the Constitution protects both, fully and without compromise. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.